All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something that I bet you think about like every time you head to the airport,
Oh, yeah.
which is luggage security.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to unpack whether those padlocks on your suitcase are actually doing anything
Right.
or they're just for show.
Yeah.
A recent TikTok video of a TSA worker using a simple pen trick to open a locked suitcase really got us thinking about this.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, how we often latch onto these visible signs of security,
Uh-huh.
like a padlock,
Right.
without really questioning their effectiveness, in the real world.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And this video really showed how easy it is to pop open a supposedly secure hard-shell suitcase with just a pen.
Yeah.
And it really makes you wonder if we're just giving ourselves this false sense of security.
Right.
Can you walk us through how this pen trick actually works?
Sure. Yeah. So many suitcases have zippers with teeth that can be easily separated with a bit of force.
Oh.
The video basically demonstrates wedging a pen between those teeth and basically forcing the zipper open.
Yeah.
What's alarming is how quickly they do it.
Yeah, it's kind of unsettling to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
So if padlocks aren't the answer, what about suitcases that have those zipper covers?
Yeah.
Could that be a more effective deterrent?
Well, zipper covers do add a physical barrier that makes the pen trick more difficult.
Okay.
But whether it stops a determined thief is debatable.
Right.
There are studies that show even a small obstacle can deter some thieves,
Yeah.
as they often look for the easiest targets.
Uh-huh.
It's all about making your bag less appealing than the one next to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking about a comment on the TikTok video
Okay.
that said, it's not just what they can get from the luggage, it's what they can put in it.
Oh, yeah.
That adds a whole other layer of concern, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That comment shifts the focus from theft to potential security threats.
Right.
Suddenly, we're not just worried about someone taking our stuff, but the possibility of someone planting something dangerous or illegal in our bags.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that luggage security is a much bigger issue than just losing a few clothes or toiletries.
Exactly. And that's where understanding the psychology of theft can be helpful.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, there's a theory that a visible padlock might actually backfire,
Okay.
signaling to a potential thief that the bag contains valuables worth the effort of breaking in.
So it's like saying, hey, there's something good in here.
Right.
Not exactly the message you want to send.
Precisely. Sometimes our assumptions about security don't align with how thieves actually operate.
Right.
We need to think like a thief to really protect ourselves.
That's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So if we can't rely on padlocks, and even zipper covers might not be foolproof, what are travelers supposed to do?
Right.
Or are there any practical steps we can take to protect our belongings?
Well, carrying valuables in your carry-on is always a good practice.
Right.
That way you're in control and minimize the risk of theft or tampering.
That's a classic travel tip. But what about those of us who fly budget airlines with strict carry-on restrictions?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes checking a bag is unavoidable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Not everyone has the luxury of traveling light,
Right.
especially for longer trips.
So if we have to check a bag, are we just out of luck?
Not necessarily.
Right.
Let's talk about some alternative security measures that you might not have considered.
Okay, so we've talked about the limitations of like traditional padlocks and zipper covers.
Right.
But what about using technology to our advantage?
Uh-huh.
Smart luggage seems to be all the rage these days.
Yeah.
Could that be a more reliable way to keep our belongings safe?
Smart luggage definitely brings some intriguing options to the table.
Okay.
For instance, suitcases with built-in GPS trackers
Yeah.
allow you to pinpoint your bag's location anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Imagine the peace of mind knowing exactly where your luggage is, especially if it gets delayed or worse, lost.
That would certainly take some of the stress out of traveling. No more frantic searching at baggage claim
Exactly.
or wondering if your bag ended up in a completely different country.
Right.
But what about the security aspect?
Yeah.
Can smart luggage actually help prevent theft or tampering?
Well, some smart suitcases offer features like digital locks
Okay.
that you can control with your smartphone.
Oh, wow.
You can unlock your bag remotely or even receive notifications if someone tries to tamper with it.
Interesting.
It's almost like having a personal security system for your luggage.
That sounds pretty high tech.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm a bit wary of relying solely on technology.
Uh-huh.
What happens if your phone battery dies?
Right.
Or the app malfunctions?
Yeah.
Or what if a tech-savvy thief figures out how to hack the digital lock?
Those are all valid concerns, as with any technology.
Right.
There's always the potential for glitches,
Yeah.
hacking, or even just user error.
And let's be realistic, smart luggage is usually quite a bit more expensive than a regular suitcase. Is it really worth the investment for the average traveler?
That's a good point. Smart luggage can definitely be a significant investment,
Yeah.
but it's worth noting that, like most technology, the prices tend to come down as it becomes more widely adopted.
So maybe in a few years, we'll all be rolling around with suitcases that have GPS trackers and digital locks.
Right.
But I imagine there will always be those who prefer the simplicity and reliability of a good old-fashioned padlock.
I think you're right. Some people just feel more comfortable knowing they can physically see and feel that their bag is locked.
Huh?
There's a sense of tangibility that technology sometimes lacks.
I get that it's like the difference between writing a letter by hand versus sending an email.
Exactly.
Sometimes the old-fashioned way just feels more personal and reassuring.
And let's not forget that even the most sophisticated technology isn't foolproof.
Right.
Just like a physical lock can be picked or broken,
Yeah.
a digital lock can be hacked or bypassed.
So it seems like the best approach is to find a balance between the convenience and features of smart luggage
Right.
and the familiarity and control of traditional security measures.
I agree. It's all about assessing your own individual needs and risk tolerance.
Okay.
Do you prioritize convenience and tracking capabilities? Or do you prefer a more hands-on approach to security?
It's like choosing the right travel insurance.
Yeah.
You have to weigh the potential risks against the cost and benefits. But no matter what security measures you choose, it seems like the human element is still the most important factor.
Absolutely. Even with the most high-tech luggage.
Right.
We can't forget about basic common sense and awareness.
Yeah.
Being mindful of your surroundings and trusting your instincts can go a long way in preventing problems.
Can you give us some examples of what that looks like in practice?
Sure. For instance, try not to leave your luggage unattended in public places, especially in crowded areas like airports or train stations.
Right.
Be aware of who's around you and pay attention to any suspicious behavior.
That's good advice. It's easy to get distracted when you're traveling, especially if you're tired or in a rush. But a little bit of vigilance can make a big difference.
Exactly. And remember that comment we discussed earlier about someone potentially planting something in your bag?
Yeah.
That's where careful packing comes in.
You mean making sure we know exactly what's in our bags at all times?
Precisely. When you're packing, take your time and be organized. Don't just throw things in haphazardly.
Right.
Knowing exactly what you've packed and where it's located can help you spot anything that seems out of place.
So it's not just about protecting our belongings from theft,
Right?
but also ensuring that no one has tampered with our bags or added something we don't want in there.
Right. And when you're going through security checkpoints, keep a close eye on your belongings. If you notice anything unfamiliar or suspicious, don't hesitate to bring it to the attention of security personnel.
It sounds like being proactive is key. It's better to be overly cautious than to ignore a potential threat.
Exactly. And this brings us to another important point. The TSA worker who demonstrated the pen trick in that viral video wasn't doing it to scare people or create unnecessary anxiety.
Right.
He was actually trying to raise awareness about a security vulnerability so travelers could take steps to protect themselves.
It was almost like a public service announcement.
Exactly. And it highlights the fact that security measures are constantly evolving as new vulnerabilities are discovered, new solutions are developed.
Right.
It's an ongoing cycle.
So it's up to us as travelers to stay informed and adapt our security practices accordingly.
Right.
What worked 5 years ago might not be effective today.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about being proactive and informed, not just reactive. And this applies not only to luggage security, but to all aspects of travel safety.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a lot more empowered.
Good.
We've talked about traditional security measures, the pros and cons of smart luggage, and the importance of personal awareness. Is there anything else we should keep in mind as we prepare for our next trip?
There is one more thing that I think is worth discussing.
Okay.
Especially since you mentioned the importance of the human element.
You mentioned there's one more thing we should discuss.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, with all this talk about, physical security and fancy gadgets, I think it's easy to overlook the most important security measure of all ourselves.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, recognizing that, we as humans are often the weakest link in any security system.
Okay.
Our own behaviors and decisions can make us more vulnerable even if we have all the right gear.
I see what you mean. So how does this apply to travel security specifically?
It's about being mindful of our surroundings, not being afraid to ask questions, and most importantly, trusting our instincts. For example, if you see someone acting suspiciously around luggage or in a security line, don't just ignore it.
You're saying we should report it to the authorities.
Exactly.
Even if it feels like we're overreacting.
It's always better to err on the side of caution. And this applies even to seemingly harmless situations. Let's say someone approaches you at baggage claim and asks you to watch their bags for a moment.
I've definitely had that happen before.
Right.
I usually try to be helpful.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to agree.
You're right to be cautious. You never know what might be in those bags. It's not worth the risk. Politely declining is the safest option.
So setting boundaries and being assertive when it comes to our personal safety is key.
Exactly.
We need to remember that we have the right to say no if something feels off.
Exactly. And this extends beyond physical security. We also need to be mindful of our digital footprint, especially when it comes to sharing travel plans on social media.
I'm guilty of that.
A lot of us are.
I love posting photos from my trips.
Yeah.
But you're right, it probably isn't wise to broadcast that I'm away from home.
Think of it this way. Would you leave a note on your front door saying, "Go on vacation, be back next week"?
Probably not.
The same principle applies online.
That's a good analogy. I never thought about it that way.
And be wary of phishing scams or suspicious emails that claim to be from airlines or travel agencies. Don't click on links or download attachments unless you're absolutely sure they're legitimate.
It sounds like being a savvy traveler requires being just as vigilant online as we are offline.
Absolutely. Travel security is multifaceted. It's not just about padlocks and gadgets. It's about awareness, common sense, and ultimately taking responsibility for our own safety.
I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners. We've learned that luggage security is a lot more nuanced than we might have realized.
It's true. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. But by being informed, proactive, and aware of our surroundings, we can minimize risks and travel with more confidence.
Well said. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just this, the best security measure you have is between your ears. Use it wisely and travel safely.
I love that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of luggage security. We hope you feel empowered to make informed decisions about your travel safety. Until next time, happy travels.